Guild Wars 2, at the same time, is one of the best MMORPGs ever made, and yet, at the same time, one of the top two most underrated MMORPGs of all time. In my honest opinion, if you have never played Guild Wars, try it. Trying it is for free, and I can guarantee you it's gonna hook you in pretty fast, and you are gonna enjoy your time spent playing it. And this game has been going strong for roughly 13 years at this point, and in the last couple of years, even, it has seen a sizable increase in its player population and player activity because of other games just, kind of getting worse, and people finally thinking, hey, it's time to give it a shot. Granted, I will say one thing: Guild Wars 2 does have an art style that does feel outdated at this point, but don't worry. 5 minutes of playtime, and you're gonna be completely fine with it. And hot take 30 seconds. Let me just do this one real quick. What is the second most underrated MMORPG of all time? Runescape 3. I'm not joking, even, okay? Everyone calls Runescape 3 bad. Everyone calls Runescape 3 pay to win and all of those things. But at the same time, almost all the people who try Runescape 3 for more than 1 hour get hooked on it and say, yeah, somehow this is actually pretty good. Yeah, the pay to win is still there and all of that stuff, but it's somehow still pretty good. Anyway, rant over.
For the better part of 2 years, I've built this small channel around cataloging and sharing my experiences across the MMORPG genre. From popular games like Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft to less popular games like Lost Ark and Throne of Liberty, these videos represent thousands of hours of gameplay, research, writing, and editing, yet in spite of all that
Throne and Lost Ark were extremely popular for their time.
time and effort, I haven't touched Guild Wars 2. Many of you have asked me to. I promised that I would about a year ago. Well, better late than never, right? Today's video isn't just about my experience with Guild Wars 2. It's also about how this MMO, which has been a quiet success in the shadow of its more popular contemporaries, cured my MMO addiction. Now, what does that mean? Stick around and you'll find out. Before we can begin in earnest, here is a 5-second Patreon pitch. Get all videos 2 days early and ad-free for only $1 a month. It's the best deal in town. Now, let's start at the beginning. The truth is that I'm not entirely new to Guild Wars 2. I participated in some of the game's beta events back in 2012, and I played it at launch, but I ended up dropping the game as quickly as I picked it up. There wasn't anything necessarily wrong with Guild Wars 2, but I distinctly remember being sick of MMOs by that time in my life. I was playing a lot of Skyrim and Dark Souls and way more League of Legends than I'd like to admit, so the timing just wasn't right. The impression it left on me was positive enough that I kept my eye on the game as it released new expansions, added new features, and grew into the game that exists today. But I could never commit to it the way that I wanted to. I tried to jump back in during Path of Fire, for example, and I couldn't get into it. Same thing with End of Dragons, no luck.
One of the great things about Guild Wars is vertical progression. By the way, if you did not know, Guild Wars is literally only vertical progression. So, literally anything you decide to do in this game is somehow or another gonna matter at the end game. Because again, there is nothing that just outscales everything else. There's just things that you can do and farm, and they're situationally better. They're this, they're that. There's a lot of options in this game. If you're a completionist, if you're someone who just wants to, see number go slightly up, Guild Wars 2 could honestly be easily the game for you.
The more time passed, the more difficult it seemed to integrate myself into Guild Wars 2's ecosystem, so I accepted that perhaps it just wasn't meant to be. We had passed each other by like two ships in the night. So, what changed? Well, my friend texted me and he was like, dude, let's play Guild Wars 2, and I said, oh, okay, but there's a little bit more to the story. You see, I've been feeling dejected about MMOs lately. For the first time since I started playing
Ooh, that's a big word.
Final Fantasy XIV in 2019, I'm not currently subscribed to the game. I'm even
Bro, I tried playing Final Fantasy. I wanted to play a rogue or whatever, and the job change. I'm like, you can get the rogue if you're an artificer or whatever caster start at level 10, and I'm like, I'm level 15. I can't still go to the place for some reason where I'm supposed to do the job change. Literally quit right there. It's just what the hell is going even on there? You're not really gonna ever sell me Final Fantasy with the words, Yeah, the game shit at the first 20 hours, and then it gets really good. Yeah, that kind of doesn't work for me, okay? That sounds like the way that people try to gaslight others into buying Starfield.
Taking a break from World of Warcraft, which is in great shape, but I'm just not feeling it right now. That's a pretty tough place to be for a guy who spends his free time making videos about MMORPGs. Honestly, I wasn't entirely confident that Guild Wars 2 would be the salve for the rut that I was in, but I decided to give it the college try that I didn't give it over 12 years ago. While I've only scratched the surface of the game, Guild Wars 2 has done more than provide me with a passing distraction. It cured me of my desire to engage in the typical MMO dopamine cycle that has dominated my gaming habits for years. There's this term which I'm pretty sure that I came up with that I talk about a lot in my videos: function fulfillment. Basically, it's the type of game design that requires minimal input from the player while offering paltry rewards in order to inspire engagement rather than to inspire enjoyment. For example, sending out your retainers in Final
Oh, that's a good way to describe it. I get what he's saying. And I hate that also.
Fantasy 14 or doing your daily Unus tasks in Lost Ark. You really aren't playing a game, you're fulfilling a function. This, as you all well know, is a staple of live service game design, with MMOs being among the greatest offenders.
I don't know. As someone who literally did 99% of the completionist content in Lost Ark, I I I I have to say, after I ran out of Una tasks to actually do, and I only could do Una tasks for gear upgrading and all of those things, it kind of got bad. That's when Lost Ark got bad.
It displaces the satisfaction that you would normally derive from playing a game and invest it instead into a predictable reward loop that keeps you logging in day after day. It's a method of psychological manipulation to keep you trapped in an ecosystem for as long as possible. Guild Wars 2 is inexplicably built with very few of these retention mechanisms. What I found upon reinstalling this game after years of being away was a lovingly crafted, living world that invites you to play. The immediate playability of Guild Wars 2 was like a breath of fresh air, which is a foreign concept to me because I live in Los Angeles. You aren't surfing menus to queue into a digital waiting room before the game decides that you get to have fun. You're simply let loose upon a space with dynamic points of focus and total agency in approaching these objectives.
Oh yeah, and also you can go and do any zone in Guild Wars 2 at any point that you want because it's gonna level scale you. But I mean, it does have some kind of level scaling. I forgot how the system exactly works, but you're not exactly gonna be max level and struggling to kill a level 1 enemy if you're in the beginner zone. But there is so much to find on every map. There's vistas, there's this, there's that, there's events. There's a lot.
Even when I was leveling through the base game, I was shocked at how populated the lower level areas were, with events serving as points of congregation for player interaction.
Yeah, you could also actually, by the way, whenever you make a new character and you start playing, you will see max levels just doing things about around the beginner zone because they're trying to be some kind of completionist type of player. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool seeing that.
Opportunities to explore the game's combat are plentiful, and the fast-paced leveling experience gives players the chance to experiment with different specializations and abilities. Traveling between objectives is fantastic in Guild Wars 2, owed mostly to its mount system. I currently own
Oh, the mount system is so fun. When you're beginning to ride the Raptor mount, you're like, whoa, whoa, because it's really fun.
the Raptor and the Springer since I've only completed Heart of Thorns campaign, but these mounts are more than enough to make movement a core component of the gameplay experience. The game even has that post-2017 glider that every game has to have after Breath of the Wild, which means that you and I are both morally obligated to jump off of every cliff that we see. In my recent video criticizing Creative Studio 3's game design, I mentioned the absence of environmental interactivity in both Final Fantasy 14 and 16. I'm a huge proponent of the proverbial treasure behind a waterfall in game design, which Guild Wars 2 embraces completely. This game is, in some ways, the diametric opposite of Final Fantasy 14, in that environmental interactivity is the engine which propels the player's adventure. From ascending in wind tunnels to bouncing off of mushroom caps to carefully working through a jumping puzzle, Guild Wars 2's world design demands interaction and exploration. Around the edges of the moment-to-moment gameplay is a user interface that still holds up after all these years. Every menu interaction comes with a slight visual flourish. Nothing simply appears like it does in, say, World of Warcraft.
Be honest, I like the World of Warcraft talent system, okay? This one right here, I like it, okay? Say what you will, I like it. It adds a decent amount of variety. There's actually not that much real choice if I'm being completely real here. But it is fun. It does seem fresh. It does seem interesting. Yeah, it's a bunch of reading, but hey, what are you gonna do? Not read anything?
Like it does in, say, World of Warcraft. Things unravel as icons, drop-downs, and bars fall into place. The watercolor motif in cutscenes, the minimap, and even around the edges of your heads-up display still looks stylish and unique, and I'm glad that Guild Wars 2 hasn't abandoned its signature aesthetic. It's a solid package, made better by the fact that my journey into Guild Wars 2 has been entirely up to me. There hasn't been some arbitrary progression track that I've needed to sprint to catch up to, or a seasonal reward loop to entice further engagement. It's just a world with a laundry list of things to do in it. Now, I have some complaints that bear mentioning. Chief among them is the game's unwillingness to communicate its benefits to a new player. When I initially began my journey into Guild Wars 2, I played as a thief who is now a daredevil parked in the Heart of Thorns expansion. My initial leveling experience with her felt less engaging than my experience with subsequent characters, since I treated the game.
True. Let me explain what's happening if you're playing a thief. You understand that you can just get 2 guns, and then there's a rapid fire button, and you can just literally kill anything while leveling with 1 or 2 rapid fires. And there's nothing else you want to do. Yeah, so, being a thief is World of Warcraft retail style leveling where you just kill anything with 2 hits effectively.
The way that I would have treated any other conventionally structured MMO. I wandered aimlessly between story missions because I was totally ignorant of things like the adventure guide and the achievements tab, which offers some structure to your journey between chapters in the main story quest. A lot of you might already know this, but the adventure guide is structured by chapter, with each one instructing the player to complete specific tasks in specific zones. Each individual task offers an experience reward, but completing a full chapter gives you an absurd amount. I'm talking 3 levels at once. In lieu of things like exclamation points and quest markers, the adventure guide is more conducive to Guild Wars 2's lenient, explorative leveling design, but I just didn't know that it was there. Look, I'm more than happy to admit my own incompetence here, but I don't remember seeing any indication from the game to pursue these achievements. Now that I'm aware of the adventure guide, leveling has been a blast, and the prospect of playing more alts seems more feasible than it did before, but there's an opportunity here for the game to make new players aware of this system rather than hoping that they stumble upon it. Another issue is the game's insistence on interrupting its own flow. When left to its own devices, Guild Wars 2 is a highly enjoyable experience in which one gameplay opportunity leads to another, linked together by kinetic movement with points of interest along the way. Unfortunately, the game is made by developers who are beholden to a laundry list of arbitrary design conventions, such as shoving you into a series of instances with contrived gameplay scenarios that seem to exist for the express purpose of slowing you down. Guild Wars 2 is at its weakest when it tries to behave like a traditional single-player story-driven game. The moment that the player is no longer connected to the world at large and is instead sequestered into his or her own pocket dimension to trudge through a scripted encounter, the magic of the game is extinguished. This issue is exacerbated by the fact that the story is simply bland and the characters range from forgettable to altogether
Yeah, I don't even know what's the story of this game too much, honestly.
loathsome. I want to take a second here to be a little bit of a hater because Braum sucks. I do not want to see him in any of the other expansions, but I understand that characters with millennial haircuts tend to outstay their welcome, so I'm bracing for the worst. The narrative.
Whoa! Don't attack them. Okay, my one has faded, but I'm gonna go to the barber soon. Okay. Well, let's relax here a bit. There's no reason to attack the millennial haircut. Okay, I'm your fucking peon. That's half my existence. Okay, relax.
Coherent structure, which can lead to total confusion, particularly in my case. You see, when I started playing Guild Wars 2 again recently, I had no idea what Living World was, so I altogether skipped it as I began in Heart of Thorns. You can imagine how lost I was in the narrative, having missed hours of crucial plot developments. I'm finally working through Living World Season 1, but it's like watching the prequel to the most forgettable season of television I have ever seen. I can't help but think
that's Spear. No wonder I didn't recognize this. Yeah, this is Spear, I think, right? Holy, that's cool.
Forgettable season of television I have ever seen.
Yep, that is Spear. Oh boy, Spears are cool.
I can't help but think of all the time and money spent on constructing Heart of Thorns' story-driven campaign. The animation, the voice acting, the programming. Why in the world would ArenaNet allow me to experience its story without insisting that I play through Living World Season 1 and 2 first? Without the proper context, Heart of Thorns was a mess, and I found myself dreading every story-driven scenario that I was forced to engage with. Honestly, I just wanted the game to leave me alone, but it insisted on telling me a story that the developers made painstaking efforts to build.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems that all of these games that are even 5 years old at this point have is the same. It's sadly the same, and it's the fact that The new player experience is really bad. Listen, when you're talking about a 5-year-old game, you can't even really find YouTube guides about what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go, what you're kind of blah blah blah. You can't find those things anymore, even. Okay? And that is one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest problem for good games to get new people in it. Destiny 2 is again without question biggest perpetrator of this problem. Everything about that game screams, if you're a new player, please delete the game, we hate you. Guild Wars 2 is not that bad. This kind of makes it sound a little bit higher than it actually is of a problem in the grand scheme of things. But you know, yeah, you can get underwhelmed so easily overwhelmed. You can get overwhelmed so easily in all of these old games that have withstood the test of time because the new player just has no idea what to do. It's a massive problem, and none of these games are trying to fix it. And then they're wondering, why can't we get new players? Because you made it so new players can't play the game because they don't know which one of the 20 things you're supposed to do that the game tells you you're supposed to do. It's dumb. It's really bad.
But little effort to prepare me for. I also can't shake the feeling that Heart of Thorn's narrative experience was worse somehow. Listen, I fully accept that the base game is not groundbreaking and it all leads to the infamous confrontation with Zaitan, which definitely sucked. Yet I still think that I preferred it overall. Heart of Thorns was more robust, it had better presentation, it had actual cutscenes, but I also felt that it was more in the way, and that I can't abide. From what I understand in terms of narrative content, I don't have much to look forward to. I've heard some freaking horror stories about the Icebeard saga, so I'll have to report back whenever I get around to that. All that to say, if there's a single blemish on the otherwise pristine face of Guild Wars 2, then it is smack dab in the middle of its face, and it is the insistence on interrupting its own flow to force you to hear from friggin' Braum again. I really hate that guy. Now let me pull you back for a second, because not 2 minutes ago I was gushing about how good this game is. Don't let my consternation with the story experience overshadow how happy I am to have rediscovered Guild Wars 2. As I mentioned in the title, it cured my MMO addiction. Over the years, I've heard a great deal about how Guild Wars 2 is strictly focused on horizontal progression, and that it allows you to do whatever you'd like. Whenever I heard that, in my mind, I always thought, well, you can do whatever you'd like in any game. You can roleplay in World of Warcraft or run a cafe in Final Fantasy XIV. What makes Guild Wars 2 different? The difference is that it's more than just doing whatever you'd like. It's that the game allows you to engage with its systems as you see fit.
Finally, someone actually mentions the horizontal progression systems. No one does! It's like one of the biggest selling points of Guild Wars 2 by far. The fact that anything you decide to do in this game is somehow gonna matter at the end. It's really good.
And the gameplay stewarding that experience is fun as hell. When people describe doing whatever you'd like in other MMORPGs, it often means enjoying the game without interacting with its foremost systems. For example, never raiding in WoW or never setting foot in Savage in 14, but still managing to enjoy those games. The difference is that in Guild Wars 2, I am interacting with its foremost systems by pursuing the completion of maps or elite specializations or masteries. I'm not enjoying the game in spite of its systems. I'm slowly integrating into them and finding a worthwhile experience along the way. One of my favorite things about Guild Wars 2 is that it doesn't look like a series of functions playing out on screen. When my character swings a greatsword, for example, it feels like I'm swinging a greatsword. The weight of the weapon is not only communicated in its animation, but in the impact of the object against my enemies. Running, strafing, and jumping don't feel like canned animations, but like real movement with weight and physics, creating the sensation of physical placement in the world. I don't know that I've ever played another MMORPG that has given me this much of a tactile connection to the moment-to-moment gameplay, and I think I'm gonna have a hard time going back. More than anything, I appreciate that I own my copy of Guild Wars 2. There's something so liberating about knowing that I'm not gonna be charged a subscription fee for reinstalling and playing the game. All I'm doing is revisiting a title that I purchased a long time.
But again, you can't actually play this for free. But there are limitations. Obviously, you're gonna have to buy some stuff at some point. But there are. Maybe there are now, but I kind of really doubt it. The last time I played, I did not see anything in your face monetization. Buy this, buy the 800% deluxe package. You're an idiot if you don't buy it. You're gonna lose money if you don't buy it. Okay?
Time ago and discovering things that I didn't appreciate about it before, or new features added in the years following its release that transformed the experience. That psychological weight hanging over my head to be efficient, to engage with a limited seasonal reward loop, to get the most out of my subscription fee, there's none of that here. Guild Wars 2 is first and foremost a game, not a series of functions or a menu surfer or an engagement farmer. It's a video game ass video game, and I am in love with it. Now, some of you out there might be veterans who understand just how little I've seen in this game. Up until the publication of this video, I haven't done any strikes or made any meaningful progress into Path of Fire, so there's still years worth of content for me to discover. I'll be sure to make more videos about my journey through Guild Wars 2 as I reach.
Yeah, it's kind of insane how much you can do. A lot of people, by the way, I have a friend who plays Guild Wars 2 off and off, and you know what he just does? He just levels characters. That's it. He never does it in any other game, but in Guild Wars, he just levels characters. He has never even done a raid, as far as I know. He just levels characters because he finds it enjoyable, and that's it. He has maxed out every class at this point.
Notable milestones. But one of the bigger benefits of getting into a game like this is that I feel more available to experience single-player games on the side. Since Guild Wars 2 doesn't eat up all of my free time, I'm not agonizing over re-clears or weekly lockouts, so if I'd rather play a single-player
Damn, that's a space goat, but you know, damn.
game like Final Fantasy 13, which I've been doing on stream, then I can simply do that without that gnawing anxiety eating away at the back of my mind. It is unbelievable to me that Guild Wars 2 seems to occupy so little of the mindshare of the general MMO marketplace. It's easy to forget that, aside from World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14, this game stands tall as one of the most popular titles in the genre, and there are reports that suggest that the player base has grown dramatically in recent years. Perhaps the absence of FOMO in its systems is to blame for it being so often overlooked, but with combat, movement, and open world...
Is Guild Wars on Steam? Guild Wars 2 Steam DB. Does that exist? Guild Wars 2 Steam. I mean, it exists, but this is not where people play. It launched on Steam in 2022, and it has like, wow, actually, that's quite impressive. I ain't really gonna lie, boys. Let me share the screen. Okay, the numbers aren't really that impressive, but again, no one really plays it on Steam. So look at this. This is Guild Wars 2. Almost 90% of player users enjoy this game, which is again expected. And this, look at this. This is 3 years. This is literally, well, yeah, it's literally 3 years. And this is pretty impressive. The peak was 8.3k people, and look at this. It hasn't even dropped 50% of its player base most of the time. That is insane. This definitely shows something. This definitely means something. Not that the Steam numbers are impressive, but again, number go up is a real thing, it seems like. Wow. So, yeah, again, it doesn't seem a lot, but again, they have their own launcher. You should probably use it on their own launcher, not actually like... Well, actually, maybe use Steam. I don't know. But yes, people don't play it on Steam. But the fact that the Steam numbers are... How much is that, actually? 55%. There's more than a 60% retention. 62.5% retention or something like that. That is good. Over 3 years, damn. That is hella impressive, honestly. Anyway, Guild Wars 2 is honestly great. That was Ember's Arcade, 10 out of 10.